Let's sit tall. Close the eyes. And once again, arrive in the moment with a sense of purposeful presence, conscious presence. Allow yourself to land softly into being. Let the breath settle. Let the body settle into your seat. Let the breath deepen. Allow the space behind the eyes to soften. Allow any unnecessary tension, physical, mental, or emotional, to receive relief. Allow the mind to be open to the possibilities. And draw the hands together in front of the heart. We'll chant Om, and then I will share the invocatory mantras. If you know them, please feel free to join. Take a breath in. Ganana antva ganapatigam havamahe kavin kavinam upamashravastamam jestarajam brahmanan brahmanaspata anaf shrinvanuti bisidhasadanam mahaganapataye namaha. Prano Devi Saraswati Vajebir Vajini Vati Dinama Vitriyavatu Ano Divo Brahataf Parvata Da Saraswati Ajata Kantu Yagnyam Havan Devi Jujushana Gritachi Shagman Novacha Mushati Shrinotu Vagdevyai Namaha. And gently releasing the hands down and fluttering the eyes open. And so, and today, for some of us here, for those who are here on retreat, we continue the conversation of the beginning, the middle, and the end of the birth, the maintenance, and the death or destruction of the process of our human existence. And for those of you coming in for the Wisdom Circle, we'll be discussing destruction. Oh, as a big topic. Where to begin? Well, it makes logical sense, and I do feel wholeheartedly accept that things begin. Right? Would you agree? Things begin. The day begins. Right? The project begins. Relationship begins. The practice begins. Things begin. Things are born. Things are birthed. Sometimes outside of our control, and sometimes due to our influence, input, and manipulation. We start a project. Maybe we want to make a painting, Read a book. Start on page 1. Let's use the book as an example. You've been waiting for this book to be released, whatever book it happens to be. So you run on down to your local small bookstore, locally owned, and you purchase this book. And you can't wait to open. You can't wait to begin. And you don't even realize that you've already begun just in the longing for the book. You have begun the process, right? So you start reading Once Upon a Time, or whatever the first words happen to be. And the enthusiasm is maintained for a while as you turn the pages, as you move through the paragraphs, as you complete the chapters. The enthusiasm, the experience, the discovery, it's all maintained for a little while. Sometimes you'll lose interest in the book. You'll be distracted by shiny things. Oh, phone rang. Oh, specials on TV. Oh, Tuesday's election day, gotta go vote. Tuesday's election day, gotta go vote. Tuesday's election day, gotta go vote. But so your enthusiasm might wane a little bit or build as you get into the crux of the plot of the story, you know. But you stay with it nonetheless. You're maintained. And then you come to the last chapter, you know. And the last chapter, you know it's coming. You know resolution is going to be there. The plot's going to be resolved. The characters are going to be resolved to some degree. And you're getting to that page 349, and there's only 352 pages in the book, and you're savoring every moment. And you get to that last page, and you see on the bottom in that cursive writing that they do, the end. And there's a part of you inside that just goes, whoomp. Enthusiasm gone. Yeah. A little bit of sadness that you can't continue to live through the characters. A little sadness inside of you that the adventure that you are living vicariously through this book is now complete.
You can start over.
What was that?
You can start over.
You can what?
You can start over again.
With what?
This book.
With another book. Or with that book.
Or with that book, yeah.
Did y'all hear that?
Yes.
You can do what?
Start over.
Say it.
Start over.
With what?
Another book.
Yeah. Or the same book. You can start again. And guess what? That's the promise, is that you will start again. We don't have to have, okay, so that thump, that reduction in enthusiasm, that sadness that it's over is very normal. Very, very normal. But it doesn't have to be the defining factor of your life, because there are how many books in the world? How many stories to be told? How many experiences to have? It's uncountable. Literally uncountable. But here's the thing. If you don't get to page 352 where the cursive writing says the end, then you will not have the opportunity to open the next book. So that first book has to end. It needs to be complete, done, finished to some degree so that you can continue. This physical body is born, is maintained for some period of time, and it ends. Why? So that the soul within this body can open another book, live another story, recommit itself to another experience. If this body doesn't die, then the soul becomes a prisoner. Think about that for a moment. If this body doesn't pass away, if this body is not eventually destroyed in its own time, then the soul within it becomes prisoner. Is your soul meant to be a prisoner? No. Your soul is meant to move from life to life to life to life. Just as you in this life are meant to move from story to story to story to story, so that you can learn, and learn some more. Discover, remember, be enthusiastic, be inspired, be creative. You're not meant to stay with one story only. Your budget is much bigger than a single book. Truly. But now the question is, how do we come into a really healthy relationship with the necessity of destruction, with the necessity of death, with the necessity of an ending? How do we come into an intimate relationship of acceptance with that? It's to understand abundance. It's to understand that, contrary to what we might believe, most people feel that this life ends, and so do we. That when this body dies, that my soul is done, that there's nothing after. But that's not what this tradition teaches. And that's not actually what most traditions teach. Most spiritual or religious traditions teach that there is something after, even if we can't define what it is. There is something. And that something is based in the abundance of continuation, the abundance of continuity of energy. The universe, as we know it, has been here for however many billions of years. So has the energy of your soul for however long. And it will continue on. It's such an interesting topic to discuss because it's such an uncomfortable topic. But it's also a topic of great promise, a topic of great inspiration. It's a topic that empowers within us if we allow it to. A deeper creativity, a more profound, awakened experience of life, and a deeper love and compassion. The idea of the ending, the idea of the destruction, the idea of death, it's very frightening for many, for most, if not all. But if we hold just a little bit of space within ourselves for the possibility that we do continue on, and we bring into that consideration two things. First, if this life is all there is, isn't it even all the more precious? And two, if this life is not all there is, and reincarnation is based upon, on some level, the quality of the life we lived now, isn't this life all the more precious? So whether you adhere to reincarnation or not, whether you think that this life is the end or not, isn't this life all the more precious? Doesn't it inspire you to live, to truly be alive, to explore and examine what it means to be a human being, what it means to be alive, what it means? That's kind of like the larger aspect of death and destruction, is allowing it to be the prompt for our understanding of the value of this life. When my husband passed away, and I miss him every day, but his passing, his death, reminded me of the sanctity of relationship, of love, of patience, of compassion, of communication, of presence, of community, of grief, of everything. Destruction can be that for us. Death can be that for us. It can be a reminder, a constant reminder, because creation is forever present, maintenance is always present, and death is also always present. And since it's always present, it has the potential to always be an inspiration to us, to live more fully, to come into right relationship with ourselves and all others, to utilize whatever ethics it is that are espoused by the tradition that we belong to work to have those ethics become forefront in our life and the foundation for all of our behavior, or as much of our behavior as we can muster. So in yoga, we have the yama and the niyama. You want to live a quality life, be maintained within a quality life of less unnecessary suffering and greater depth of happiness. Then abide by nonviolence, truthfulness, non-stealing, non-grasping, and all the others. Spend your time in this life learning about those ethics, learning about those virtues, and how you relate to them or how you resist them. And then make adjustments within yourself. Because I can guarantee you that the deeper the relationship that you cultivate with the virtues of your tradition, the less afraid of death you will be. See, why are we afraid of death? Rashmi Devi, would you share a thought on why we are afraid of death?
We have aversion to suffering. We equate death with suffering.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We equate death with suffering, and we don't like suffering. We're afraid of it.
Not knowing.
We don't know what happens after. Yeah.
Leaving loved ones behind.
Leaving loved ones behind.
Afraid to feel the feelings of someone else.
Afraid to feel the feelings of someone else passing.
Because we didn't live a full life.
Say it one more time.
Because we didn't live a full life.
Oh, because we didn't live a full enough life. Anything else? Okay, so now we're going to go back again. Say yours one more time.
Aversion to suffering.
Okay, aversion to suffering. Yoga teaches us there are two types of suffering. There is unnecessary suffering and there is necessary suffering. Unnecessary suffering is that which can be avoided and should be avoided. And how do you avoid unnecessary suffering? By understanding the cause of suffering as being attachment, as being expectation, and then working to modify your psyche so that you expect less and attach less and accept the necessity of birth, maintenance, and destruction more readily within this life. That the flower seed will sprout and grow, the flower will bloom, and then the petals will fall away back into the earth where they will become fodder for the next seed to sprout. It's beautiful. Yours?
Afraid to feel the feelings of someone else passing.
Afraid to feel the feelings of someone else passing. But this tradition teaches us that we are one in an empathetic heart, and we will feel feelings. And some of those feelings will cause some discomfort. But the discomfort is not something for us to shy away from, so much as it is for us to see as a reflection of what's happening in our own heart, in our own life. Those feelings that other people are feeling actually become fodder. They become fertilizer for a deeper awareness of our humanity and a greater practice of our compassion. But in that, we must understand what belongs to us and what doesn't. So we become what's called the sakshi, the witness. We witness. We hold a space for what others are feeling and going through. But we understand that it is not ours. It's their path. And in becoming a true witness, we're able to actually hold a very healing space for other people where they don't need to be worried about, well, I don't want you to feel what I'm feeling. I don't want you to go through what I don't want to impose on you. We save them from that because we have become self-responsible. It's a beautiful tradition. What was yours?
A question.
Go ahead.
Just come back to suffering, yeah? How to live without expectation? I understand how not to expect something from somebody, but let's say you build a business and you expect a profit from this to give your child, let's say, good future.
Mm-hmm.
And then suddenly that's not happening. So, but the suffering comes, I understand, but you've been expecting this because you put like your soul there.
That's a really great question. And we could have a lot of wisdom circles on that one. So what I'll say is this. Expectation is not the devil. Expectations can be reasonable. But most oftentimes, our expectations are based in a concept of forcefulness, not empowerment. So this is not your situation that I am aware of, but I'm going to take that new business as kind of an example and throw some details in there. So let's just say that I wake up tomorrow morning, it's 40 years ago, and I wake up tomorrow morning and I say, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to open a boutique, and that boutique is going to specialize in something, and it's something that people are going to find really cool. They're going to really want it. They're going to come. They're going to buy it. And I'm going to be successful. Absolutely. So I go off and I do a couple of different things, or I don't. Maybe I go and take a business course so that I understand how to run a business, or maybe I don't. Maybe I sit down and I write a business plan, or maybe I don't. Right? Maybe I seek out local investors and people who might want to contribute to this grand idea of mine, or maybe I don't. But I follow some type of a trajectory that leads me to the moment that the doors open. Now the doors open, and on opening day, 2 people stop by. And I'm crushed, because the house should have been full. People should have been knocking down the door to get my product. What is going on here? This has been such a waste of my time. First problem. Well, really not the first, but big problem. These teachings teach us, we have a right to the work only and never to the outcome. I don't know why. In reality, I took the business course or didn't, wrote a business plan or didn't, looked for investors or didn't, did all of the planning, creation, painted the walls, fixed the leaks, whatever. I really don't know why I did all of that. I know I had a thought in my mind about what would come from it, but the reality is I have a right to the work only and never to the outcome, because the outcome can never be guaranteed. So this is real. So I go off and, in my early days, let's see, I was a waitress, I was a bartender, I was a jewelry designer, I was a model, I was an actress, I was many, many things. I became a paralegal. Right? Oh my gosh. I became a paralegal. I was a businesswoman with my own business. I was an emergency care worker. I was a member of the Red Cross and worked for them for a long time in emergency preparedness and response. Then I went back to college and I became an anthropologist, and then I became a physical anthropologist, and then I became an archaeologist, and all this time practicing yoga, and some part of it teaching yoga too. And then I dropped it all and did this. The orange thing. And you know what? So many people asked me, oh, don't you feel like you just wasted all those years? And I said, oh my God, no. Wasted them. They all taught me about humanity. They taught me about the human condition. They taught me about the predicaments we find ourselves in. They taught me how to relate. They taught me how to speak publicly. They taught me how to do research. They taught me how to analyze. They taught me. All those circumstances put me here today. Not one moment wasted. Not one. Not one career path a waste of my time. Not one. Because I have a right to the work only, but never to the outcome. And this is not even the outcome. This is another stop along the way. Yeah, who knows? Maybe next year you'll see me living under a bridge somewhere, having another experience of humanity. I don't know. Michelle and I joke all the time. It's like, well, if the ashram ever closed, I wouldn't bother going back to a 40-hour a week. I just live under a bridge somewhere. You know? But that's because life just continues. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I'll just sit under the bridge and throw fruit at people. You know? Because this life continues. So don't ask yourself what you have lost because something didn't work out the way that you thought it should. Ask yourself instead, what comes next? What is next? What's next? There's always something next. Don't look at the end as the end. It's not. It's a jumping off point. It's a place from which we propel ourselves forward. Whether we're talking about the big D death or the little d deaths that happen every day, every hour, every minute of life. Yeah. What was yours? What did you say before?
Mine was about like leaving loved ones behind.
Leaving loved ones behind.
Yeah, what comes to mind are my children.
Yeah.
I always fear something happening to me and then them being left to
This practice teaches us. It says, there's no need to fear leaving the physical body of a being behind because the physical body is not your child. The soul is your child. And you're already one with that soul. You're already one. So instead of being focused and intent upon the fear of leaving them behind, be present and intent on loving them, accepting them, spending time with them, cherishing them, while you are both in a physical body. That's the answer. The answer is not to fear when I'm going to die, I won't see them anymore. The answer is to love them so genuinely right now that there will be no regrets in the last moments of life. What was yours?
Because we don't let ourselves to live fully,
Yeah.
like to live the life.
This practice teaches us. I mean, like, there's nothing anybody in this room could say that we wouldn't have a comeback for. Just let you know that now. You know? It's like every breath for those yoga teacher trainees in the room, every posture enhances breathing capacity, has the potential to. And yoga has an answer for everything. So for this one, the answer is quite simple. If we're stuck in a moment where we feel like we're not living life to the fullest, come to the yamas and the niyamas. That's number one, yamas and niyamas. Live non-violently, truthfully, non-graspingly, without stealing, with contentment. Cultivate practices within yourself to generate these virtues and to empower them. The second is live a life of service. Be of service to the suffering of others. Because Swami Shivananda, amazing living saint, during the 1800s and early 1900s, he would always say, the fastest way to heal thyself is by serving the wellness of others. So live a life of service. Fill some of those extra hours away from Facebook and into the soup kitchen. Right? Do something for community. Have a devotional practice. If your heart is so called to it, cultivate a devotional practice for yourself. Cultivate the essence of bhakti within yourself. Cultivate a meditation practice. And spend time recognizing the beauty. Remember, beauty was the number one thing, wasn't it? Right? It was the number one gift of this life is the beauty. But how much are we looking down rather than up and at the beauty and in and at the beauty? So cultivate a habit of recognizing the beauty, and then you won't worry about not living a full enough life. That's a lot to fill your life up with. Karen, what was yours?
Not knowing where you're going, what's going to happen.
Kena Upanishad. Yeah. The Upanishad tells us, the teachings tell us, they teach us, they say, you know what comes after life is unity. Unity. True unity. Like we're unified now also, but because we're in this individuated body with these individual egos, we've forgotten so much about ourselves. So there's a child, and he goes to his father. His father is preparing an offering of cows, and these are cows that are no longer like producing milk, and so they're not very valuable. And he goes to his dad and he says, "You would give such a worthless offering to someone. Who would you give me to?" The dad got mad at him, because he called him on his stuff, and he said, "I give you to death. That's who I give you to. I give you to death." Oh, such a wonderful story, right? And it's like, what's wonderful about that? What a mean dad. No, it's really great. The son, being the good son that he is, trots on off and goes to find death. He goes to death's door and he knocks, and death isn't home to answer because he wasn't expecting the child. So the child waits for 3 days. Now in India, this is very improper. If you have a guest come to your house, you're to be there to greet them, and you greet them with some little thing to drink, some little thing to eat. You welcome them in. But the boy camped out on death's doorstep for 3 days waiting for him to come back. So death shows up and he's like so apologetic, and he says, "Well, to make up for the inconvenience of me not being here to greet you, I'll give you 3 wishes. What would you like?" And the boy looks at him and he says, "Well, the first thing that I would like is for my father to recognize me as the son he loves when he sees me again." Oh, what a wise child. He went to death, which for your average human being means his father's not going to see him in a physical embodiment again. But this boy says to death, "No, I'm not here for good. I'm only here to visit you and ask some questions. So let's just, with my first wish, ensure that you let me go back. Let my father recognize me, and let him no longer be angry with me. Let him remember how much he loves me." Okay, fine. The second thing he says is, "I want to learn the secret of the fire ceremony, the yagna." And Lord Yama says, no, because it would be inappropriate. There are saints, sages, rishis, and rishikas who have spent years and lifetimes preparing to learn this ritual, and they're not ready yet. You're a 7-year-old child. What ego you have to think I should teach it to you? And the boy said to him, "You gave me 3 wishes. My second wish is that you teach me this ritual. And what I will guarantee you, what I will promise to you, is that I will perform this ritual until it is perfected like none other has perfected it." Couldn't argue with that. So he taught him the ritual. The boy learned the ritual so profoundly and so perfectly that Lord Yama ends up naming the ritual after him. Names the ritual after the child. And he says, "Okay, you have 1 wish left. What would you like to know?" And the boy says, "Well, I want to know what happens after we die. When this body is destroyed, I want to know what happens." And Lord Yama looks at him and he goes, "Ask for anything else. That is such a mystery for the humans. They don't have the capacity to understand. So why don't you ask for something? I tell you what, I'll give you all the cows and all the wives, a kingdom, and you'll be wealthy forever. Take that instead. Good deal?" Little boy looks at him and says, "No." "What would I want with those things? They're going to die too, right? They're going to perish too, aren't they?" So they hold no value to me whatsoever. The only thing that holds value to me is to know what happens. So eventually Lord Yama gives in and tells him, at the end of this life, depending upon the quality of a life lived, an individual will be born back into a particular condition. A condition that is based on karmas of the past, karmas that are currently unfolding, and karmas that have yet to be. There will be special individuals, certain individuals, we won't call them special, we'll say certain individuals who lived a life where they were profoundly immersed in their truth, in the truth. And those individuals, given their good and great deeds in this life, those individuals will be reborn again into a state where they can continue where they left off. They'll be born into a family of yogis, where meditation is constantly practiced and where their sadhana can go even deeper. And for even fewer still, those individuals will not be reborn because those individuals will have completed their karma. They will have neutralized all the karmas of the past, and they will have lived life in such a way that they gained no further karma to be resolved. But be aware of this, that after this life, this physical embodiment, it is not yet over. You will either come back into another body to continue your work, or you will return to your source and be immersed in the universe. There's nothing to fear, because you're merely returning to that from which you came. And I love that Mike Tyson did this special, a little short question-answer thing with some other gentleman. I don't remember his name. Was it Jay Shetty, maybe? I don't know. But the other person was talking, and I just clicked into it midway through. And he's talking about death, and he goes, oh man, when my time comes, I ain't going. He's like, hook me up, do what you got to do, but no, because I do not like the idea of death. No way. And so I think it was Tyson was the other person on there. And he said to me, he goes, well, what is it that you're so afraid of? And he said, I don't know. It's just like, I don't know. And he said to me, he goes, well, yeah, but you're merely returning to that from which you came. Were you afraid when you got here? Were you afraid? Were you like, I'm never going back there again? No, you came here, and when you first arrived here, you were filled with innocent joy. Where do you think that came from? It came from your source. The innocent joy of a newborn baby, the purity, the sweetness, the goodness that it brings out in us, that came from your source. And that's what you're going back to. Why are you afraid? Did somebody else say something else? Or were those all of the answers? How about we say any questions or reflections now? Yes, Savannah.
What about when we lose someone under circumstances where we didn't get to tell them how much you love them?
Absolutely. So this practice teaches us that our souls are forever interconnected, and that our English language is a very limited way of communicating with one another, and that the love that you feel for that individual is a vibration that travels through this universe, and it's a vibration that they receive from you. So they know the love that you feel. They know the sorrow that you feel over their loss of their physical body. They know that. You don't need to doubt it. You don't need to doubt it. But in the event that you have a hard time letting go of the doubt, then what you can do to support yourself is a daily ritual where you set up a small altar of remembrance, of memorial in your home with a picture of this individual. And each day you sit in front of the picture and you place just a little flower, could be hand-drawn or a real one, in front of their picture, and you say, I love you. I love you. Every day for a year. Yeah. Jeanette.
First, thank you for that story. That's Declan's favorite story, and you just shared it in ways I haven't heard before, so I'm so excited to go home and tell him again. Having sat with people as they were dying, hundreds and hundreds of people, you see that joy illuminated in some. And I think part of the fear all around not knowing and all around losing people is because we don't sit with people as they're dying, generally. They go to the hospital, or it's unexpected, or we don't get the opportunity in our culture to really practice the beautiful rituals around death. And to, as we do with birth, there's a whole lead up, there's a whole planning session, there's a whole welcoming of it. If you get that opportunity, it's so special. And one of the absolute worst deaths I ever saw was a boxer who wouldn't let go of life. And it's that attachment can cause great suffering. And the practice teaches us how to let go. Every Shavasana, how to let go, how to let go. And those deaths where people do have an easeful letting go, there's such joy.
Yeah.
Such beauty and such a gift to witness that, to know that that is possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah. You know, it's so true. I've been with several people when they've passed also. And I've also been with my dog, Chloe. She was a Doberman Pinscher mix that I had many years ago. And she had a sudden onset heart tumor. They did a surgery. They were like, she'll have another good year, but then she'll go down quickly. And they were 100% accurate. And so when she started the downward, energetic decline, I made the decision to bring her in and laid down with her on the floor. And I mean, like when I tell you, it's might sound strange, but this dog was like a soulmate. Like this dog never left my side. She was just, we were so connected. I laid down on the floor next to her. Her nose was like right here. We were looking in each other's eyes, and like I could hear her. I could hear her saying, "It's time and it's okay. And it's been wonderful knowing you here," And the passing, the not having the physical form there anymore, of course it's sad. But to see her freedom was so reassuring, to see that she was free. You keep a bird in a cage because you appreciate its beauty. But there is nothing more beautiful than a bird flying free in the sky. That's the soul. That is the soul. Yeah.
Well, I have a question, but first I just want to preface this by saying it's absolutely mind-blowing how Lisa and I will be discussing something during the week, or I'll be having a thought, whatever it may be, and then we come here and you're discussing that. It's just going to get weird, everybody. So Lisa and I have been discussing all week about how we have an English bulldog named Vito, and he has this innate empathy and this almost sixth sense that is just so beyond other dogs, and we find that he seems to understand words, and I'm not talking the tone of voice or the phrasing. It is specific words he understands, and if you could give your reflections on, is it possible that he was an English-speaking human in a past life?
Yeah. So what I'll say is anything is possible. But I think that maybe more profoundly than was he like an English-speaking person in the past is, did you have a relationship with his soul in the past? And the answer to that is yes, you did. And you still do, and you always will. And so there's a few ways to look at that. One is that we travel together in the same circles. So we've known each other lifetimes. And at some point we said, well, let's get together for Wisdom Circle this time around, shall we? Yeah. So we have that where souls tend to kind of travel in packs, but we also have unity. We also have unity where the essence of that dog's soul, and yes, I absolutely am a proponent of the truth of everything having a soul. Humans are not the only ones that have a soul. Dogs, cats, trees, rocks, everything is this divine sacred consciousness. And everything is connected as a result. And so people make such a big thing out of like being able to read people's minds, right? They're like, oh, I could read people's minds, and then they go off and try to make money at it and whatnot. But the reality is, of course you can read people's minds if you clear away the clutter. You're connected to that person. You're a part of the network. So all you have to do is get rid of the clogged, pipes and the crazy thoughts, and you're a wide open receptor. No matter if you're a human or a dog or a horse or a bird. That's all that it is. It's you are inherently connected over time, throughout lifetimes, and right now. You are part of the same network. But, we're trained differently than that, right? We're trained to think, well, a dog, sit. That's about as much as they can do. Yeah, do we have tissues in there? Thank you, Jeanette. Well,
I'm not the only one.
I think we'll just need to hand everybody a tissue. Yeah, let's just let the box make its rounds. So we're inherently connected, and just think about that for a moment. That if we sat with that pretty seriously in this lifetime, starting today, and we said, I think what I'm going to do, so that what I'm going to dedicate myself to, so that the compassion and the empathy are amplified in my own life toward all other beings everywhere, is I'm going to dedicate myself to decluttering the network, at least the part that I represent, so that I can hear, see, sense, while also building the capacity to be the witness, not the fixer, not the author, not the manipulator, but the witness, so that I can truly honor the path of others, truly hear them and what they have to say, truly witness what they're going through. And if we did that, if we made a concerted effort to have that be a focal point in our life, our parenting would be different, our relationships maritally would be different, or any friendships, any relationship, employment relationships, it would all be so different. So different. So of course you can connect with what is his name?
Vito.
I like that. Vito. Of course you can connect with Vito. Absolutely you can. Absolutely. I connect with Sansa every time I walk in there. She's just like, she talks to me. Marika does too. Like complete conversations, Sometimes rather loud. I apologize to anybody who might have been woken up by. Marika's got a little bit of a we'll call it a princess attitude. Yeah. So if I'm paying a little bit of attention to Sansa and she's not getting what she feels is enough attention, then she goes into her. And what she's saying. I can't repeat here because it just might not be proper. Yeah. So, is that helpful at all?
So much. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions or reflections right now?
I'm a little bit confused. You say that we come from one source and then we have this experience and then we come back there. But what's the reason of this experience?
Oh, wow. How long y'all want to stay here? So there's a lot of theories around that. And can anybody actually answer that question definitively? No. It's not a question that can be answered. It's a mystery. The mystery is, why would an absolutely perfect consciousness, completely self-contained, completely whole, completely at peace, ever dedicate itself or allow itself to be, to reign? Yeah, I know. To rain down its own energy into the manifestation of individuated souls, living within individuated bodies, living in a materialized world that is chaotic and only held within the control of the gunas, which are out of control chaos. Why? Why would it do that? Right? Why? And, the only answer that really comes to mind is this. A few possibilities. It was accidental. It just happened. Nobody knows why. Nobody will ever know why, but it did. The second is that became self-aware. Somehow, something happened, and self-awareness set in. And it's kind of like you sleep during the night and you're completely unaware. Maybe not completely, but for the purposes of this conversation, you're unaware. You start to wake up in the morning. And when you wake up in the morning, what are the first few thoughts you have? I wonder what today will be like. I wonder where I'll go. I wonder if it's going to rain. I wonder what I'll wear. I wonder if I should get my hair cut. I wonder what I'll have for breakfast. I wonder who I'll meet. I wonder what adventure awaits me. So this self-awareness is a series of questions. It's a series of longings to have answers to those questions. And perhaps the questions that were being asked could only be answered through our experiences. So in other words, put simply, divinity comes to know itself through us. Yeah. There's one other explanation too, and it's the Ayurvedic explanation of the creation of the manifest universe. That initially there was nothing, like a shunyata, there was nothing, like a void. Within that void, there were two potentialities: for it to remain the same, completely still and at peace with no disturbance, or to be disturbed. For some unknown reason, disturbance happened. Shakti moved, she pulsated, she went, whoop, irritated Shiva. From there is born a sense of self-awareness that translates to the awakening of an intellect, of a divine intellect. And we can look at that in association with the mantra Soham, which translates as I am. It is a statement of being, I am. Then from the buddhi, or the divine intellect, comes the ahamkara. The ahamkara is the divine ego. And the divine ego says, well, what am I? What am I? From the divine ego come a variety of things, including the mental senses and the sense orientation of the world, and the five elements, and the mind, which tries to make sense of it all. And those things, the senses, the sense impressions, the elements which create the objects of sensation, those things all interact with one another via the gunas of nature, tamas, sattva, and rajas, in order to answer the question, what am I? So you stub your toe and you scream out a few explicatives and, so am I pain? Well, no, I'm not only pain, but it is an experience that I have. You fall deeply in love with someone. Oh, I must be love. Well, that's human desirous love, and it's an experience that you're having, but it's not the only thing you are. So a collection of all of these experiences. And I love the Baha'i, thank you. The Baha'i tradition, they say the only time that we will ever come upon the most complete truth is when we stop segregating things. I'm paraphrasing that a little bit, but they say there's no one religion in the world that espouses the entire truth. Every religion espouses a part of the truth, appropriate for the time period that it is speaking to. No one prophet espouses the entire truth. Each prophet that has visited the earth has only espoused a small portion of the truth that was appropriate for the time that the prophet was speaking to. Humanity will never know the entirety of humanity because humanity is only ever activated to a certain percentage for the time period that humanity is living in, speaking to, and experiencing. And it's only when we take all religions, all prophets, and all of humanity together, all it, that we will understand the truth. So we could say divinity is in this process right now of having these experiences, attempting to know itself through us. And then when it finally knows everything that there is to know, then we come into another age of being. And that age of being is the dissolution, the destruction of the universe as we know it today, and the birth of the new one. I'm not going to go any further than that. That might have even been a little too far. But I had to be complete in my answer. Let's do a time check. Yeah. So who else? Somebody else had their hand raised. Savannah, did you have your hand raised again? Yeah.
How do we move towards closure and acceptance? Maybe if there's like an abrupt and traumatic loss, even years later, there still feels like this lack of peace and closure with it. How do you move towards that?
Yeah. It is a very deep question, and there's a lot of different ways that it can be answered. But for the purposes of our conversation today, and we've talked before about many different things, for the purposes of our conversation today, what I'm going to suggest is that when we have a loss, how about we stop calling it a loss? How about we start calling it a reminder? This is a reminder of how deeply you are capable of loving. This is a reminder of how deeply you are capable of being connected. This is a reminder. It's a gift in that regard. Now, when you're given a gift, what should you do with it? Open it. Yeah. Open it. And if appropriate, share it. Share it. So now that you know how deeply you can love, now that you've received the evidence, how many of those around you will you love as deeply? And you can do so in memory, in honor, in unity with this human being that you're missing so much. You can say, thank you for showing me the depth of my own heart. Now I feel, or work toward feeling, I can share the depth of that heart with all others, or with whoever you're able to in the given moment. There are people who we, boundaries and whatnot. So, does that make sense? Yeah. And then, of course, grief groups that focus on spiritual, let's say that a different way. Grief support groups that focus on the celebration of life, not just the loss. You need to acknowledge your grief. Grief, as we said, is what? The fourth gift of life, right? Grief is the fourth gift of life. What are they again?
Unity,
Suffering.
The grief that goes with the suffering. What do you all think the fifth gift of life is?
Love.
Love. And the reconciliation that comes with it. Absolutely. The fifth gift of life is love and the reconciliation that comes with it. So whatever doubts or regrets that exist around that, yes, spend time appropriately to look at it and to recognize it for what it is, and then practice forgiveness, and then open the gift. And then open the gift. Yes?
I think that was probably the most beautiful thing I've ever heard.
Oh.
It was so touching.
I'm so happy and honored for your words. If they touched your heart, act on them. If they touch your heart, act on them. Anybody else?
There are some theories about even in Japanese culture, if you grieve for someone who died, you don't let the soul move forward.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of cultures like that. Yeah.
Like that helps me. My parents think that I'm a very cold person, but that helps me.
Yeah. Well, absolutely. And in India, they say the soul hangs around for 13 days. So that's the time when you make your amends, and then on the 13th day, there's a ceremony that you do that releases the soul and says, let me support you in going into the realm that you need to go to. I don't wish to keep you here. Then your grief and sadness may still be there, but it's not something that's binding to the soul. So there's a lot of cultures throughout the world who share those types of sentiments. Yeah. But it doesn't mean that you should get over your grief or stuff it or rush through it. That's not what it means. It is supportive, though, to have a ritual around it so that you can have some kind of meaning and purpose to it and put it to some good use rather than just have it tearing you apart on the inside. Yeah?
And then Pritipaksha, these times when you intentionally call it back in and let it move through you and spend a day or a week devoted to those you love who have passed or your ancestors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I don't know if it was the retreat that I was sharing this with or if maybe it was last week's Wisdom Circle, but this is the time of the year that my husband passed. So on purpose now, it's been 4 years, but on purpose, I will take time, I will put on the music he loved, I will look at pictures, I will cause myself to remember how it felt for him to pass. I will celebrate his life, but in the same moment, I will also hold a very intense space for my grief. You have to. It's evidence that I loved him. Why wouldn't I? If you love somebody, you want to stuff it? You want to hide it? You want to get rid of it? No. Grief is an extension of love. You just need to be mindful. There is a slippery slope there because it can turn from an extension of love to a self-fulfilling prophecy that no one stays and nothing works out. Be careful, right? Yeah. Anybody else? I know this was a very heavy conversation today, and I would be remiss if I didn't bring it back to Kali. So I'll take the last couple of moments and bring Kali into the conversation. So Kali is the mother of death and destruction, as is the mother Durga. Kali is there with a straightforward clarity. She is there with the naked truth. She is there with the unembellished honesty. Like, she's just so clear She is just so very clear. And while we've been talking about the death of the human body, mostly in this session, we need to also understand that this life is also full of little deaths. It's full of the end of relationships. It's full of the end of jobs, the end of the day, the end of a good book. Yoga teaches us that if we grasp onto the end in a way that is trying to make it stay alive and carry the same meaning when it was supposed to have finished, it was supposed to have ended, then what we're effectively doing is stifling our own awakening, stifling our own capacity to be alive in this life. We're clogging up the network of our own heart and mind, and we're causing ourselves great suffering. So then we introduce the goddess Kali. And Kali shows us, and sometimes she might do it for us, she shows us how to move through it, how to remain focused, how to have the strength, the courage, the capacity to let the things fall away that must fall away, to no longer try to force things to remain with us when they are not meant to. So that little bit is more for the retreaters, because we've been talking about Saraswati, Lakshmi, Durga Ma, Kali over the weekend. And for those who are in for the Wisdom Circle today, we'll continue our conversation on Kali because it's Kali. Yeah. So we'll continue that next week. But just a little thought there about the little tiny deaths that we experience day in and day out, and how the cultivation of inner courage and bravery, as well as acquiring a deeper understanding and a more profound faith in truth, is what helps us to actually let go of those ties in a timely manner. In a timely manner. Everything in life is timely.
Don't you think that our planet is in the stage of destruction right now?
Say that one more time.
Don't you think that our planet is on the stage of destruction?
Oh, totally.
Right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So, now. Okay, so there's 4 yugas. And the quick answer to that is that we're in the last one, and it's a pretty dark, destructive time. And it's not going to end for another 47,759 years. So no, we're not in the age of Aquarius. That comes much later. Yeah, we're in the age of ignorance. We're in the age of ignorance and darkness, and it gets darker yet. We're in the age of the ego, the imbalanced ego. We're in an age where, you might even, for those of you who are my age or a little bit older, you might look back on like the past 5 decades or so and remember that there was a time where the ego wasn't so out of control, right? It was out of control, but it wasn't so out of control. And yet its unhealthiness has escalated. I don't even know the word. Like like a millionfold.
People going to space instead of solving world hunger.
Right, yeah, like hello? Right, exactly. So the Kali Yuga is like that. It's like, and we think that the ego's out of control now. Well, we got 47,000 more years of this. So, and that just means we have a lot of time, a lot more time. It's going to continue to exponentially get darker and darker, what we call darker. So more ignorant, more destructive, more violent, more mindless, more lost. But don't worry. I know it sounds really dark, but the promise is that the first yuga will come around again. And that's the golden age, the age of light. And you will be here then. You will, because we all will. Yeah.
We must pass through 84,000 more yonis.
Yeah. I totally get divinity wanting to know itself. I just got to ask, why did you make it so complicated? Yes.
Well, before you started talking about the golden age, I was thinking, I sure hope my karma's fulfilled in this lifetime.
Yes, really.
Yeah, right. And then you have the opportunity to come back as a saint, as a walking awakened person on the earth who serves humanity and the awakening of other beings. Is anything and everything set in stone? Who knows? Who knows? But what we do know is that through our own actions and lives, we do make little differences along the way, and sometimes we make really big ones. So why not live for that? Why not live for that? Dedicate your life to living knowingly, peacefully, lovingly, compassionately, with great awareness and acceptance, and for the sake of the end of suffering. No pressure. Let's sit nice and tall. Oh, yes.
I just wanted to add that I feel like in every moment in time there is always a balance, a healthy balance. So it's, in the end of the day, it's our choice if we want to focus on distraction or creation.
That's right, absolutely. And how you're going to focus on it too. That's your choice. Are you going to focus on destruction as the enemy or as the friend? Yeah, completely. All right, let's close the eyes. And draw the hands together in front of the heart. And together we'll lift our voices in one Om and the All Beings mantra. Take a breath in. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.